I am kind of a person who is a bridge person because I've been working with the donor community ever since my Clinton campaign days in '92, and have only recently, only in the last year and a half, gotten interested in the blogosphere. Now that I'm interested in the blogosphere, I've sort of dove in head first with Chris and Matt, and I'm really excited about it. But there aren't that many folks in the donor community who have much understanding of the role that blogs are playing, and I think that is another challenge to add to the list that Lisa has. Lisa's working with folks who totally get the blogosphere, who read it, who get its value, who when I write a post, I hear from Andy or Deborah sometimes the same day, saying here's what I liked, here's what I didn't. I mean, they're very engaged, and but there aren't that many donors in that category, and I think that's part of the challenge for all of us. One of the things I'm very encouraged by, though, is the fact that we have, by my count, about half a dozen different either board members or staff members of Democracy Alliance are at YK this year. Lisa's here representing Skyline. There's a number of other donors who are here for at least 1 or 2 days, if not the whole conference. So there really are some bridges that are starting to be built, and I think we need to maximize that. I did a piece a couple weeks back called Bloggers and Donors in Open Left that talked about the challenges of bloggers raising money from the donor community, and touched on some of the issues that Lisa touched on, as well as others. And I told a story in there, and I have no doubt that this is true of most of the major donors in the country. I know it's true of a lot of the ones I know. Is you go hang out in a donor's office for a while, and if you're not there just to pitch them on money, to hang out with them because you know them and you're their friend, and so you hear what the calls are coming in. Most of the calls that they get hour by hour are from politicians or organization heads or other donors or celebrities asking them for money. So the competition in this world is intense, and it is relentless. It is never ending. I know somebody who got rich in the Houston real estate boom in the 1980s and made a bunch of money on one real estate deal and gave away a bunch of money to Democratic causes, and then went broke 3 years later because the boom turned to bust. Never recovered financially. He still gets calls 20 years later from folks because he's still on lists. He still gets calls from politicians and other folks asking for money. It is relentless. And so one of my messages in my post on Open Left and to all of you is we can't just fret about the fact or whine about the fact that blogosphere isn't getting enough money from donors. We have to be very strategic in creating opportunities for giving, vehicles for giving, and very, very specific strategies for giving. And it is a long-term process. This is not something that is going to turn around overnight. It's not something that's going to be easy to change because the competition is too fierce and the dynamics are currently not aligned. I have great hope that over time it can change, but it will only change by us being very thoughtful about continuing to build organizations like the ones that Lisa was talking about that play a role in funding bloggers, because most donors are not used to giving to individuals. They see a blogger that they like. They're not in the habit of just going and writing a check to something named Atrios, or going and writing a check to some guy like Chris Bauer sitting in his apartment in Philadelphia. They tend to give money to organizations, and key is going to be to build organizations that that fit with the blogosphere's culture, that are not gatekeeper organizations, but that are democratically based organizations that can still move money out and still do tangible things, even though they're more democratic than a lot of traditional organizations. One final comment, and then I'm going to stop because I really do want to be brief. One of the most exciting things that has happened since I did my post is the amount of dialogue it's engendered. Even from people who disagree with some of it, but the intense amount of interest and dialogue, not only among bloggers who read Open Left, but I sent it around to a lot of my donor friends to get their reaction, and they've been very engaged since. I've gotten a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, a lot of conversation about, okay, people get the challenges, but how do we overcome the challenges? So I think there is genuine interest. I think it's a matter of being very thoughtful and having very solid strategic thinking about this. I think it's a matter of also being patient because, like I said, there are cultural issues here that are not going to turn around overnight. And I'll end with one quick story. Various configurations of us have been starting to go around and do briefings for donors in some different places, particularly Stoller and Ben Rom from ActBlue and I. We did one briefing at Google for a bunch of high-tech donors, movers and shakers. We did another one in New York. And this was not of course the issue at Google, but in New York, we were co-hosted by a person who welcomed everybody to the event, a major donor in New York, really good guy, and he co-hosted it based on relationships. He knew me and trusted me, and I said this was a good thing, and so we did it. And he opened his remarks saying, I actually don't know what blogs are, and have never read a blog, but Mike says they're really important, and so we're here today to talk about the blogosphere. That is the level of information that a lot of donors have. They are not demographically a group that is as likely to read the blogs, and they're used to giving to organizations and really don't understand what blogs do. So it's just going to take some time. With that, Dave.
Thank you, Mike. Let me summarize. Well, let me summarize the theme today and what we've heard here really quickly, and then we're going to go into some questions, and I'm sure people will be available to talk to. We're all in this together, and we're all working to fix the country. That's my summary. We're, as part of this, these bridges are being built. We're seeing it starting to happen. And people are actually somewhere out there starting to find out what blogs are, as Mike said. We're going to put together a site. Right now we're going to host it at Commonweal Institute on connecting donors to the Netroots. We're going to put together links to resources, ways to apply for funding, things you might need to know, who's funding, and as these things improve, I'm sure Open Left will be having an ongoing discussion of this. So this is the continuation and really the beginning of the discussion of how we're going to build this movement. So with that, I'd just like to open it up to questions, and we'll go on for a while because you all need to stay here for the next panel too. Yes. And I'll repeat the questions.
I'll speak loud, everybody here. I'm Bob Furtick from Democrats.com. When we talk about money, we never talk about where the money goes. And the money goes, the progressive money goes primarily onto television. And through the hands of candidates. We fund the candidates, and so our presidential candidates will put $500 million on television. The point of that is supposed to be that it changes the outcome, that it quote-unquote moves the dial in terms of polls. But we went through an 2004 election where the billions that were spent on TV had no impact on the dial whatsoever. The blogosphere has changed the way people watch TV, and so is TiVo. People don't watch ads anymore. So when are we going to focus on getting the money that the candidates spend on TV put into what really makes a difference, which is the blogosphere and grassroots organizing?
Mark?
One comment, and I've actually been having a lot of conversations with donors about this. I believe what we need are multimedia strategies. I don't think we should be making the case as bloggers, I can say we now, that donors should fund only blogs. And I don't think that's what you're saying, but I think we have to make the case for true multi-platform, multimedia strategies that go far beyond the kind of traditional broadcast TV ads that are being done, but that do more on cable television where you can highly target your dollars, more on radio where you can highly target your dollars, more online where you can target your dollars to the maximum impact, where you can have an impact on raising money and doing all of the other things that we've been talking about. More in mobile media, which I think is absolutely essential, and which is being used more and more, not just by young people, but if you look at the demographics, Latinos use mobile media more than just about any other demographic group. So I think it's got to be a multimedia strategy. I think it's got to be an integrated strategy. But I don't think we should argue to folks that, TV is a waste of time just from the blog sphere. Because I think people will say, oh, you're just being self-interested. There still have to be some TV ads. I prefer that the ads didn't suck, as most of them did in 2004. I prefer that the buys were more thoughtful and did a lot more cable buys. But we can't. I don't believe we can legitimately argue that we shouldn't be funding any TV. So that's my reaction.
If you had it all times.
Daniel Audax, Pluribus Media.
I can't hear you.
Sorry. Daniel Audax, Pluribus Media. So we know that corporate television is now a right-wing outlet. Why do the candidates choose to be seen through that kind of thing? I don't know. Through that lens of, sorry, I'm better writing. Through that lens. We need to reach out. I disagree with you because we need to reach out to everyone. We need to ask people face-to-face for money. We need to ask people where the issues are. Why should we I think his question was, why should we put so much money into media that won't work? I don't watch that much television. I watch the blogs because we have become the fourth estate. I come from Cleveland, I can't trust the plain dealer. It is a red talking point parrot. So I go to Coast, because this is where I get the facts. The only way we're going to keep this in the blogs, we're going to keep our trust, we're going to keep this, because we get the facts, we're becoming the fourth estate. Because they have turned away from giving the people the truth, they're dropping the American public. So, I guess that's a pie chart situation?
I don't. Go ahead.
So I guess, to the big question, right, is why should we be putting so much money on network television? And the obvious answer is we shouldn't, right? I mean, we shouldn't be putting as much money as we are on network television. But I do agree with Mike that we can't ignore it, right? I don't think that it is the most important thing. and it is getting the most attention and the most money right now. That is a huge mistake. But if we ignore it, it's very difficult to get to kind of the swing voter, to folks who are not kind of already in the choir, to folks who don't get yet that the Daily Kos is where you get, honest information. And so how do we reach those folks? And network television it's tough for me to see how network television is not a part of that equation. Now, I don't think that network television, even by itself, gets to the problem of getting beyond the choir, to getting to swing voters or completely disenfranchised voters. And that is mostly, I think, going to be solved through grassroots organizing and through folks who get into communities and reach people face to face. But, it's kind of, if you look at sort of what, I always sort of think that the Democratic media folks are always a little behind the times. They never quite respond to change in the market as quickly as they should. And if you look at just sort of what Madison Avenue does, right, in terms of how they reach voters or how they reach consumers, we're not even kind of at that level in terms of the things that they're doing with word of mouth marketing and other sorts of guerrilla marketing things. They're off television and onto other things more than we are. So it is time for things to evolve, definitely, and there's no way anybody can argue that you can't. And there's some progress being made, but I think Marco's sort of addressed the problem in his book, right? There is a whole financial arrangement set up that really incentivizes a group of people who control the political campaigns to keep things on broadcast television because it's how they make their money. So donors have to push back on that, and you all have to push back on that in order to change it. It's not going to be easy.
And let me add that there's a great panel coming up on that title, Reaching the Public. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Joe Vecchio. I'm host of the Cup of Joe radio show on the Head On Radio Network. I live here in Chicago, and I host the show out of Chicago. In fact, theoretically, I should be on the air live in about 20 minutes, but I'm not going to be able to make it. George Lakoff, in his book and in other sources, has said that the Republicans will give, the right wing will give $1 million to a foundation and say, do what you need to do, whereas the left wing will give $50,000 and demand accountability for every penny. What I'd like to know is how can we reach out to the bigger donors to explain to them that when they give money, they have to be a little bit more hands-off and allow us to do the things that we need to do, and that their money will not be safe under right-wing administrations. They will simply take it away from them eventually anyway. How can we explain that to the bigger donors, like the Soroses and the other people who have massive amounts of money?
Under the broad category of general operating support, guess that if you're in the nonprofit world, you really know what that means, but who would like to?
I have some quick thoughts on that. I don't think it's entirely up to donors to understand that you're going to fund people and they're going to say a lot of things that are going to make you mad, and you just have to live with that. I think a better solution might be to develop an intermediary system where large donors can fund organizations that will in turn fund the blogosphere, and I think we're seeing some of those built up. And as I said in my talk at the beginning of the panel, there are some quick, low-risk ways for organizations or large donors to get involved, including online advertising or hiring people as Netroots consultants. So I think the key, like as Mike was saying earlier, is finding structures that can appeal to both cultures, where the independence is maintained and sort of plausible deniability is also maintained on the part of the large donors.
Okay, 2 fast questions and fast answers, and then we're going to take a short break and start the next panel. Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. My name's Colin Bishop, and working with Home of the Blue, forthcoming. I just wanted to, 30-second anecdote, and then 1 point. The anecdote is, I was part of the group raising money for yearly Kos, making $10,000, $25,000, and $50,000 asks of donors that I've known for a long time, and they just don't know. I mean, this is like all of us are here. It's the annual convention. If there's anything they should support, it seems to me, it would be this. And they're not quite there yet. And one of the things that I think would be really helpful for every blogger and different organization that's trying to reach out to these donors and bring the I guess I'll say establishment donors to the table, is to connect the dot beyond your blog or your organization to what you're actually affecting, like the candidates you're supporting and so forth. It doesn't need to be like TV or whatever it is on the ground. In this one little way, I think the DCCC model is a good model. I think it's terrible for the Netroots as a whole, but what they do is they recruit candidates, they reach out to various things and say, we're going to help bring donors to you and fund you and do these sorts of things. The donors see the DCCC as a credible organization. Obviously, it's part of the party infrastructure, but that's something I think the Netroots could move toward, where people are funding what the Netroots is supporting, but they're also willing to give a percentage of that to the DCCC itself so that they can be more effective. And so I think in your individual fundraising efforts, if you really work to connect the donor beyond your blog or the part where people are going to get negative feedback and get criticized to what's actually happening that's positive, the donor can focus on that and they won't feel the same sorts of hesitations. One person who gave $10,000 to the Yearly Coast, I've known for a long time, he would kill me. Well, maybe not literally, but would never give to anything I supported again if anyone knew his name. If it got out that he had supported Yearly Coast, because it would be damaging to him personally and to his business. So that is a concern that hopefully we can overcome. And if you have any thoughts on how to overcome that moving forward,
So I want to make sure that everyone leaves here as hopeful as I am about the moment we are in. 2 or 3 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible for you all to have this meeting. You had one a year ago, but 2 or 3 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible. And last year, you didn't have Mike Luck sitting up on a panel talking about donors with whom he has many connections. Didn't have me sitting on a panel, very interested in what you're thinking and what you're doing. You didn't have the Rappaports 2 or 3 years ago investing as heavily as they are in web activities, including blogs. You didn't have about half of the Alliance partners. There are about 95 partners now. About half of them are supporting either Media Matters, Progress Now, or the Center on Independent Media. So you got 40 or 50 donors in the country who at least know a little bit about what you do and who you are. So this is an incredibly hopeful moment. So the question is, and incidentally, Democracy Alliance